Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to you from myself, Steve Falconbridge, joined by Fergus on camera. We are out in Djuma in Sabi Sands with the degrees of 33 degrees Celsius and 89 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a nice, warm day. The sun is beating down. We have developed a bit of a sweat getting the vehicles ready, but we are excited and we are out on a mission. I am joined out there by Scott Dyson. He's on vehicle as well as Taylor, and we're going to try and show you one of the best game drive safaris that we can. Please feel free to send through your questions to @SafariLive or #SafariLive and follow us on the YouTube stream. Send through your comments and questions. See how we can accommodate you. This afternoon, I am going to go and try with Fergus and try to find that beautiful Tundi and her cub. It's been a while. I was watching the videos from this morning, and she has grown so much. So that is my mission this afternoon, to go and have a look, and obviously whatever we find along the way. Scott has given me some rough directions, so we're going to see if we can manage to relocate on that beautiful animal. So please jump on board in the front row seat with us. Come and have a look, and while we go, we're going to jump over to Taylor, who's already found herself a big 5 animal.
I know, can you believe it, starting off the sunset safari with my favorite animal? But there's one to the right that I want to show you that's even more exciting, because it is having a little bit of a mud wallow. How cool is this? Of course, this elephant is way more important than me introducing myself, so we shall watch it for a little bit. And then I will say hello at some point. Although you already got a glimpse of my blonde ponytail. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time on Safari Live, it's great to have you on board. Remember, you can chat to us. All you got to do is #Safari Live and then talk to us via the YouTube chat. But I'm Taylor. That's my name. And behind the camera, bringing you all the most amazing things, is Sensor. And we're going to be heading to Chitwa, but our attention was drawn by the elephants. So that's what we're doing first this afternoon, is watching them. And we're right on the boundary as well. We're lucky to catch them before they crossed over to an area that we may not venture. So thank you, elephant. This is a young bull that we're looking at too. It's just the 2 elephants here so far. The rest of the herd could have crossed on already, or perhaps it's just 2 members in this herd. Hello, little boy. A little bit cheeky. I don't blame him, though. Probably the heat. I also get a bit grumpy when I'm hot and sweaty, but he should be feeling much better now as he's glistening in the sunlight from all that lovely mud. Very cool. Hi, guys. So I don't know if it's mom and youngster, but you seem to be a bit too big to be a youngster. But that cow, just to the right of him, looks like her mammary glands are starting to swell. So perhaps that big bulge on her side is not from devouring on today's grass and leaf buffet, but perhaps there is a young calf on its way. How nice is this? Now, Senzo, when are we going to see your favorite animal? When are we going to see the lions? Today. Senzo says we're going to see lions today. Let's hope that he's right. That was quite a nice thing that elephant did. I don't know if you saw it. It sort of grabbed a piece of grass and then, there we go, sits on it again, wiped it on its body. I don't know, perhaps the mud is like a salad dressing? I don't know. Coat the leaves with some mud and then eat it. Now, Sam, I feel like you're issuing us all a challenge today by saying that the mud is nature's sunscreen. It is indeed. And if you do find yourself in need of some sunscreen and you can't find any, well, there we go, lather on the mud. Although I don't know if I'd want to use the mud that elephant has just used. Normally it doesn't smell particularly nice, and I don't know what kind of parasites and things may be in there. But we've got a goal. We've got to get to Chitwa, and I'm hoping that massive body of water that is at Chitwa, of course, Chitwa Dam, is going to attract some more of these elephants. But Steve has got the same idea today with the heat. He's going to be chasing after watering holes. Let's see where he has arrived.
Thank you very much, Taylor. We have found ourselves at Chelapan, a very small watering hole on the Twin Dams Road coming south from camp. And we have found ourselves a couple of comb ducks, otherwise known as knobbed-billed ducks, and they are lacking the very characteristic big knob on the top of the beak that the male will have in the breeding season. So what I can assume is that possibly it's a female with some juveniles, or there is a male that is not breeding at all. But the one on the left looks a little bit more Derby brown than the one on the right. But what a nice reflection that is. They are standing in a little bit of shade, enjoying some wind coming off the water, and it just goes to show how a small pan like this, which was dry not so long ago, the nutrients washing in from the surrounding, you will slowly start to see vegetation growing in this as the plants start growing with the influx of nutrients, and that is what these ducks are feeding on. They are also known as filter feeders, so they're able to filter small vegetation particles out the water with their sort of filter-like beaks, which is quite unique for ducks. The only other birds species that we know of that can filter are flamingos. So really nice to see them. It's my first sighting of some knob-billed ducks in the last while. And what have we got there? Ooh, 3-banded plover. Puma thinks they're very odd. Puma, you should see what the male looks like when he is breeding. He has got this very large disc shape on his beak. I would show you on my phone, but I think the screen is not going to reflect it very well. But there they are. They're quite dab looking at the moment. I'll actually try and get a picture for you. But they are quite interested in the impala that just walked off. There were 2 male impala enjoying the same shade as they were, and they are constantly looking in the direction. See if I can find you a nice picture. Comb, I don't know why they're called comb ducks, but knobbed bill makes it very easy. The comb duck is the old name. Let's see if we can get this Ferg. Let's see if we can get the reflection on here. Look at the size of that knob on the top of the beak on the male. Apparently that is extremely attractive to the females, which I find quite bizarre. But each to their own. You can see sort of the flecks. Oh, sorry about my head. You can see the flecks on the neck, which are quite characteristic for this duck, with that sort of dirty whiteness to them. Ooh, what's that calling? A little alarm call of something on the floor here. So yes, they are quite strange ducks, but when they fly in profile, they've got such an amazing sort of shape because that big comb or knob on the top there. Okay, so Mr. Dyson is up and mobile, and he would like to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon, hello everyone. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Dave, and we're in a rush. We are looking for a leopard. His footprints were right behind us, very fresh, and we've heard some monkeys alarm calling. So we are hoping that sooner rather than later we are going to be able to work out exactly where this leopard is. Not too sure which male it could be. Maybe Tamba, maybe Hukumuri, maybe Tingana. A lot going on with the male leopards here on Djuma at the moment. And I'm hoping that these monkeys that we heard alarm call a little bit earlier continue to do so. Steaming hot tracks just behind us. They disappeared off the road, and I'm guessing he cut through the block to the right of us. I'm guessing he's somewhere on our right. Very thick vegetation. But like I said, with some help from the other animals in this area, namely the monkeys. Oh, you see, now it gets confusing, because now I found some more tracks here, but I'm not convinced how fresh they are. And this was the area where the Hukumuri male was finishing off a kill yesterday. Taylor's already put through her guess. She thinks it's going to be a Tamba, a young male. I didn't have a good enough or long enough chance to check those tracks properly, and like I said, they could have been Hukumuris. But interestingly enough, Hukumuri male's got quite distinctive toes. Some of his toes are longer than the others, especially his back right foot. His back right foot, this toe is considerably longer than that one, and that's abnormal. Rexon pointed that out to me the other day. Rexon's one of our wizard trackers who we spend time with on foot. Okay, it's time to go off the road. I want to try and work out where these vervet monkeys are. They were chattering away. And if they're still around, they'll hopefully be up in a tree and looking in the direction of where that threat was. We can just stop here for a moment and enjoy these inyalas. Francis in Israel, you say it could be Hukumuri, and only time will tell. Hopefully, we will in fact be able to find out who it is, and then we will know who is correct. Taylor with Tamba, or Francis in Israel with the Hukumuri male. Now, inyala are quite big antelope for leopard to take down. How cool is this shot? A tangle of heads and horns, all different shapes and sizes. A great display, actually. Small, medium, and large. Well, medium, small, large, if you were to go in order. Wonderful. As I was saying, they are quite big prey, but not too big for a male leopard. Too big for a female, but definitely in the ballpark for a male leopard. Now, where could he have gone? I've been really surprised by animals and their alarm calls and how often it can vary. With some inyala bulls, just like these ones we're looking at now, this guy's flaring his nostrils quite effectively. The leopard walked probably about 10 or 15 meters past him, and he didn't even let off one bark. Now that is not very good. If his girlfriends had have seen him doing that, they would have been extremely, extremely disappointed. What is this guy chewing? I'm wondering if he's chewing a marula fruits. I think it could be. He's been going at it for quite a while. Let's see if we can see in his beak there. Hey, buddy. You're also getting a bit flary nostriled, eh? Showing off. I wish I could twitch my ears like an inyala. That'd be a nice party trick. Okay, guys, we're gonna probably move on from these inyala, keep snooping about, try and find out where the vervet monkeys are, and hopefully they will help us work out where the leopard is. You, on the other hand, are going to be heading off to join Taylor with some elephants.
More elephants, not the same ones we were looking at earlier. We have now found ourselves two young, independent elephant bulls. Well, maybe not quite independent just yet, but they're definitely getting to that age. And just as we arrived, they were actually tussling with one another. So hopefully they're going to show us some more of that behavior. Here we go. The one on the left has decided to swing on round. Here, he brushed through that tree. There we go. Charging on in, ears flared, trunks up. And now they're going to push and shove one another around, which is typical of young bulls, but it's always quite a nice behavior to watch. As long as you fellas do not push into my car, that I will not appreciate. Thank you very much. I'm not worried about them, but sometimes when they do push and shove each other around, they kind of forget about what's going on. Now, as we watch them play about, Sinek, you've asked this afternoon if elephants can get worms. Most certainly. I'm sure they have an abundance of parasites that are in their intestines. What species of worms? I'm not sure. Probably maybe tapeworms, roundworms, the typical ones that you would find maybe in your cats and your dogs. Something similar, of course. Hello, boys. They're quite funny. They're watching where I am. Good boys. Just keep us in mind. You keep playing, we'll keep watching and talking. You see that one on the left now? Look how it's gone. Okay, I'm just going to pretend to feed for a little bit. And then I'm going to race on out to the right and chase you like you never expected me to do that. That's typical. Yes, smelling us. Not very impressed, of course. He's not hanging around, he's moving off. We're still on the boundary road, so if these ellies do move off, we'll carry on going. Just feeding on a balanites tree. Is that delicious? Green thorn? No fruits, though. I bet you would prefer some of the fruit. Well, I'm sure they're just feeding on various things as they go about. Now, here's an interesting question from Sarah. You've asked at what age would these, say for instance, these young elephants be interested in the ladies? Well, a young elephant bull from about 10 years up becomes very interested in the ladies. As you can imagine, all those hormones are starting to, well, flourish within. And they don't quite know what to do with themselves because the girls are not particularly interested at all. And this continues right up until very old age. But of course, then the bigger and stronger you get, the more attractive you are to a female elephant. So these boys keep trying their luck, and it eventually results in them getting pushed out of the herd because they do sort of bully the younger females, they bully the younger elephant calves too. And they just become quite boisterous and a bit of a nuisance, in fact. And then that's when the family group will stand together and force them out. And I think that's what's happened here. I reckon they're probably close to about 15 years old. And that's why they are on their own, is because they're no longer part of a breeding herd. So they've teamed up. Maybe they were chased out together. Perhaps they just met along the way. And you know what men can be like. Sometimes you have a little bit of a box and you go and have a beer together and you're best mates again. I reckon that's what's happened there. They've had a bit of an argument. They've gone separate ways. But I'm sure they're going to meet at the same point again. Thank you, gentlemen. That was quite interesting, in fact. But they've now disappeared. Sorry. There's supposed to be a D on the end of that. And into the bushes. So we shall carry on. Steve is still on a bumble. He's trying to locate Tundi and Cub. I'm sure he must be getting closer to where Scott left her this morning.
Thank you very much, Taylor. We found one of... Oh, you got to look at it, though, folks. Very briefly, though. Maybe it's going to come back to us. That was a cinnamon-breasted bunting. Beautiful black face with the white marks. Maybe it'll come back. It is a seed eater. It landed on the floor after being perched very briefly on that branch. Went down on the floor to feed. This is the time of year of plenty for the seed eaters because all the grasses are in flush and in full bloom. So look at that. There is a couple of species there. All of them will be dropping their seed shortly, and these seed-eating birds are absolutely loving it. Okay, so we are still on our way towards Tundi. No updates as of yet, but we will slowly be making our way into the area. Still checking tracks all the time. There were some tracks of a male leopard in the road. Not too sure on the freshness. Ferg and I were trying to figure out, was it this morning? Was it yesterday? It's not always that easy. I didn't drive this road yesterday, so it's hard for me to tell for sure. But we are still on our mission. Please feel free to send through your questions. He flew off.
Sorry about that, everyone. Old Steve just disappeared into a black hole. But fear not, I'm sure he will come out of it and you'll get to see him again. So we're just kind of lingering around. We've got a small obstruction, and that is that the guests haven't left camp yet, and we're very close to the camp. So I don't want to be driving in front of their rooms while they're busy suntanning. And I think that's where this spotted cat is hiding. So we just kind of keep driving around here on the periphery and see what we can find. Kathy, you'd like to know if leopards do have their own form of alarm calls. And yes, they will have one. I'm not sure exactly what it sounds like, but you could imagine a leopardess having a bunch of cubs and needing to give the drop flat command or the run for your lives command, and she will just go meow or something, and they will run off. I'm not too sure what it is. Wild dogs also have a kind of an alarm call. Interestingly, it's the most dog-like noise that they actually make. It sounds like a bark. Not a regular bark, but it's closer to a bark than their regular whooping or hooing. Hoo, hoo, hoo. There's their kind of regular communicatory call. Oh, sorry, Dave. Unexpected speed bump there. So yeah, I think all of the predators will have their own alarm calls too. I don't think they'll use them for as prolonged a period as most of your prey species do, because they really want to kind of spread the word that there is danger in the area. For predators, it's more of like a quick warning. Hey, get out of here quickly. And after that, I think they kind of all go into survival mode and deal with it themselves. I'm really hoping we get lucky again. I've had some incredible luck with leopards over the last 24 hours, and I'm hoping that continues, not only for me but also for Steve, who is heading back into a very exciting spot where we left Thandi and her cub this morning. And you'll be glad to know he has made it through the back hole and is wanting you guys to jump back on board with him.
Thank you very much, Scotty. Yes, we have made it through the Milwaukee, which sometimes has a little bit of blackness when it comes to signal, but we are on the other side, and I am just paying very careful attention to... Oh, hello, little Steinbok. Oh, there he goes. I hope you managed to get a little glimpse. He was standing very still. Let me go back there, Ferg. Ah, there we go. He was a little man, and he was standing, well, not a little man, but Steinboks generally are quite little, but he was a male because he had the horns, standing dead still. And if I didn't look at him, and if we didn't train this big camera on him, he would have thought, hey, I'm invisible, and then he would have gone about his business. But because he gets spotted, it's time to run, and then he stands still again. That's kind of the strategy a lot of these animals employ: the run, freeze, and stand very still, and then hopefully they don't get detected. We saw that with Hukumuri the other night in the scrub hare. That did exactly the same thing and evaded his grasp, which is quite good. Steinbok don't go very far. I've seen 6 lions tear a Steinbok apart. That was quite something to see. Michael, to get back to your question about the unknown species of critters, I have not managed to get any feedback from anyone who says what I've found is not known. I do take photos of insects and flowers, and if I don't know what they are, I try and find them out, or I send them to people who do know, and I've yet to be told, well done, Steve, you found another plant. But a friend of mine, Sarah Nurse, who I worked with up in the north of the Kruger National Park, she was walking through the mountains one day and she came across a foxglove, which is a beautiful little flower, but it was sort of like a violety purple. And there already is a purple foxglove, and so she thought nothing of it until a local expert by the name of Duncan Mackenzie, who does a lot of botanical stuff in South Africa, he's written a few books, he's an expert with birds and flowers, and he came across it, and she'd actually identified a brand new species. So these things are possible. They are possible. I think in a place that's as well worked as the Sabi Sands, I don't know. But insects, we still don't know a lot about insects. We still have a lot to learn. Lee Guttridge, a friend of mine, has written a book on insects and the signs and tracks of insects. And his foreword basically opens with, I have now disappointed myself in the reality that we don't know anything. And there are so many insects that still have yet to be classified. And I'm hoping I'll find a few and get them classified, and maybe we'll get an insect with the name Falconbridge on the end. That might be a little bit too much, but that would be marvelous. That would be marvelous. So we are getting close. So Ferg? A grasshopper called Steve. Steve the grasshopper. Okay, so we are arriving to Falcon Beetle, says Kirst. That's a brilliant one. That's actually quite good. I think that's probably going to stick now. Oops, have I started something? So we are approaching the area where Scott left Tundi. I'm just trying to pay careful attention to where he went off road. There's a little loop over there that we missed, and somewhere between that loop and this drainage line there is going to be an access point for us to go in and see if we can find. And I have found the access point, I do believe. Yes, that is it. So we're going to be doing a little bit of off-roading. And while we search, we're going to go over to Miss McCurdy, and I wonder if she's found any little critters that have not been classified before.
I think I'm live, I think I'm live, I think I'm live. I'm sorry, I was listening to the Game Drive radio, and that was a lot louder. It was a lot louder than Kirsten's voice, which is surprising. I'm just joking. Or am I? Right. Just to show you how we show love to everybody in camp. Another. We're driving around on Chitwa now. We did have we had 3 more elephants, but unfortunately the cow was, well, being a cow, she did not look happy. She was secreting heavily from her temporal glands. She had a bit of a swagger to her step, kind of what a musk bull normally exhibits, but we decided to let them pass and carry on with our day. But everybody seems to be marching sort of northwest, so I wonder if they're not going to the dam. Now, my original plan was to only hit Chitwa Dam in the late afternoon because it's just beautiful and see the sunsets and the hippos playing, but we might have to go twice because it's so hot at the moment. We definitely could see some swimming ellies, but the gremlins are about to hop on board, so I'm going to make it through the section. Off we go, back to Scott.
Well, we have a tortoise, but it's a shy one. It doesn't seem like it wants to do any modeling for Safari Live this afternoon. It was busy chomping down on some bushes before we interrupted its lunch. And that was a Speaks hinged backed tortoise. You get 2 main types of tortoises here, that one and the leopard tortoise. So we definitely seem to see more of these though than the leopard tortoise. I prefer the leopard tortoise personally. They've got a more regular kind of round shell, whereas the hingeback tortoise is quite flat, not much colorations or markings on the shell, but we do get both. Ooh, let's hope this bird lands. You may have just seen it fluttering off. Oh no, I stopped in the wrong spot. A little bit further forward, a little bit more. There we go. Definitely one of my favorite birds, the African hoopoe, and I was hoping to try and get into a good spot as it lands, because every time they land they flare that little hammer-like crest on their head, fans it out. I think Steve's been having some incredible luck with them, it sounds like. He's had multiple sightings and it sounds like some really epic ones. Wonderful, busy doing some preening. Now you can hear another bird squawking away. It's a tiny little bird called a rattling cisticola. And I really hope we can find it and show it to you, because you'll be astonished at how small they are.
Maybe
at the top of the big acacia. I'm also thinking that, but it can't be that far. And they usually don't sit very high up in the top of trees. Yeah, no, that's a starling, but the sound sounded like it was coming from there, but they're usually like lower kind of bushes where they perch and rattle away. They're actually a nuisance, those birds. Noise pollution. I'm only joking, but the reason why I say they're a nuisance is because being so small, so many things alarm them. I think even the tortoise we've just seen would probably alarm a rattling cisticola. And they rattle off in this kind of alarm call all the time, and you go in and investigate and find nothing. Watch this time around though, there'd be a 4-meter python dangling in a tree. That would be nice. I would ask for my forgiveness. Let's drive in there. I can't resist. Let's go and see what's happening. Hold on, everybody. Sinak, you would like to know, what do the eggs of a rattling cisticola look like? Part 1 of your question. And part 2 of your question, you would like to know what the babies look like, the chicks. I'm sure the chicks, when they are born, are, like most birds, hard to distinguish from their, from another baby, and unfeathered. The eggs, I don't have a clue. There's quite a few birds here. Okay, there's the rattling cisticola finally, Dave, straight in front of us on the dead branch. Well done. Hallelujah. Look at it going for it. So that's one of them. There's actually, I don't think that's the one we're hearing more clearly. I think there's another one that we're hearing. Let's keep moving. Maybe there is a serpent in the grass. The reason why I think that is because there's also quite a few other bird species in this area. So it's not unlikely that there's some kind of a predator. A very common predator that birds will alarm call for is a slender mongoose. Oh no. We're not going to have any joy finding either a snake or a slender mongoose. But I've got some good news. The guests are out of camp, which means we can go back to our search for the leopard. So let's do right that now. I'm glad we got to see the rattling cisticola though. Cool. So we're going to head off in search of whatever these monkeys have been shouting at around the Vuyatela Dam, and you are going to be heading off to another dam with Taylor.
Oh my goodness, look what we've just spotted over there. Senzo, do you see it? Quickly before it runs away. A tractor! An abandoned tractor. I don't know where the person that was riding it has gone to. Kirsten says, action broadcast. Everybody sit quietly, please. We're about to go live. No, I'm just joking. So it's very quiet. So it might be a silly Sunday safari. It is still Sunday, isn't it? We can do sassy Saturdays and silly Sundays. Surely I'm allowed one day a week where I can be ridiculous. So we are on our way to the dam still. We've got a little way to go, but we'll hopefully see some things in between. And there isn't much out at the moment, but I said it this morning. I did say that it was going to be quite warm, and I think it's at 88 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 degrees Celsius, so it's definitely on the hot side. And with this weather, you can imagine nobody wants to be standing out in the sun unless you are a wildebeest. Otherwise, everybody else tends to go and find a bit of shade to keep themselves nice and cool. And it's really nice at the moment because they don't have to stand in the sun and graze. They can literally just stand under a maruda tree for an elephant and pick fruit up off of the ground in the shade, or you can just graze, which is typically why you'd get those big circles sort of or underneath trees, these grazing patches just where the shade is. We'll see if we can find a good example. So at the moment, in this open area where there's typically lots and lots of game, from Inyala to impala, they're not around yet. My goodness, James, now you've stumped me, because I don't have a tree book with me on this drive, so we can look at their distributum. You're wondering, at what latitude do Maruda's trees stop growing? I don't know, let's ask Steve Vovo or Scotty D and see what they think. because I haven't got a clue, to be honest. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm very embarrassed right now. Not really. Can't know everything. Oh, impala! Let's change the topic quickly. Normally I change the topic a little bit more subtly when I do things like that. I'm really hoping that by the time I get down to Chitwa Dam, another herd of elephants has made their way around. That wasn't a clever idea, looking into the sun like that. But I promise there are some impala. Oh, and a wildebeest. We were just speaking about those two species, weren't we? So we shall have a look at them. And then we also need to find the driver of that tractor. I hope he's okay. Wonder where he's gone. Maybe he's gone for a snooze under a shady tree. That's what I'd be doing if I was driving a tractor around in the heat all day long. I'd totally have a sneaky siesta. But there we go. There is a wildebeest. I don't think this is Gnorman. Gnorman lives on Cheetah Plains. I wonder how Gnorman's doing. But it is a blue wildebeest. And they're African pygmy impala because they're so much smaller than the ones in the Mara. And that blue wildebeest is also much larger than the western white-bearded wildebeest, which was the ones we were seeing in the Mara as well. Cousins. They're cousins of one another, essentially. But there he goes. And you're not doing what I said. I said you'd be out standing in the sun, but he's not. He's a clever wildebeest. Now, seeing as though we were looking at some impala, which are antelope, Clifford, you've asked a question that's relevant to them, and that is, are deer and antelope related? No, there are some slight differences. For instance, the impalas, which is, like I said, an antelope, the males get horns, or antelope species get horns. Depends on the sex, though. And whereas deer have antlers. Oh. Did she just catch a fly? I have no idea what that impala just did, but she opened her mouth really wide and started chewing. Perhaps these impalas are now omnivorous and will eat insects occasionally. So there are a couple of differences between the two. In this area that we're driving in, we don't get any deer, but apparently there is one species of deer in Africa, and I'm not sure of what its name is. Again, I've never seen it. What I did used to find, though, in the Eastern Cape was fallow deer antlers, which was quite cool, in fact. But that was because it was an old hunting area, so they'd introduced fallow deer in order to shoot them. Of course, they've done away with that now, and a lot of those areas in the Eastern Cape, they're trying to rehabilitate the land from either farming or hunting, and introducing the natural animals and just doing photographic safaris. That's the best way to shoot an animal, is on a camera, in my opinion. Oh, there we go. William the wildebeest, just depositing some secretions from his pre-orbital glands. You saw him rub his face on the ground. Now he's going to rub his scent all over. He might be having a little bit of a dust bath too. But remember, wildebeest have got glands between their hooves, pedal glands. So when they do stamp the ground like that, even though they might be doing it to loosen the soil, it is going to be depositing his scent down on the ground too, which is quite important. Let's go around. Let's see if we can get a better view of him having this dust bath. Might be quite nice. William, hold up. I don't want to drive. Let's see if I can stealth mode into it. Just a little bit. Please don't get up. Good boy. That's better. Here we go. You'll all appreciate this view now. Let's see if he's going to carry on a little bit more. No, not a very good dust rolling demonstration. Oxpeckers enjoyed it though. You can see them underneath him in his shadow. Also, utilizing the shade. Sometimes you don't need just a tree to cast a shadow. And William's basically done all the hard work here. He's stirred up the soil, and now all those red-billed oxpeckers can roll around in the fine dust. They'll be very happy with that. And desperate for the shade. See that? Mouths agape, beaks agape. Just having a little roll around. So both doing it for essentially the same reasons. Dust helps suffocate those blood-sucking parasites. It will kill some of them. That's not really going to cool them down very much. They'll need to go for a swim if they want to do that. Maybe we're lucky enough to get to see oxpeckers having a bath a bit later. I doubt William's any interested in perhaps going for a swim. But it seems as though I think it's Scotty D, might have a surprise for you. I wonder what it is.
I do have a surprise, but you will have to wait to see what it is. It is hiding in a bush, So we are just going to reposition ourselves to a spot where I'm hoping we'll actually be able to see it. I'm not convinced that my plan was the best one though. Let's see what we can do here. No, it wasn't a good plan. Might become better though. Terrible plan. So basically, you're going to have to keep waiting. Oh gosh. A lot of you will notice or recognize where we are. Whoever the Zoomy is today has missed something very exciting here at the waterhole. Because there was a creature out in plain view in front of the camera, but for now the Zoomy gatherers latched onto what the vehicles are looking at and is pointing at the other vehicle. We're not going to be able to get a great view, but I just want to start off from here. Whichever animal it is, or whoever it is, seemed like it could have been a little bit nervous when we first arrived. So I don't want to get the vehicle too close to it. But now you can see that it is a leopard. And I'm confident that it's a male, but you would be a magician to be able to tell who it is through that thick bush that's in front of his face. He kind of got up and moved ever so slightly when we first came across him, and that's what made me think he was a little bit nervous. And I'm just going to let Tussling, who's one of the Djuma guides, enjoy a good view with his guests, and I'm sure they won't be here too long, and then we'll be able to slot into their spot. But it seems like the leopard luck continues, and I can't wait to work out who this guy is. I've got a feeling it's Hukumuri, but cannot be certain. I'd be really surprised if it is, because it's unlike a male leopard to stay camped out in an area unless there's food. And yes, he may have been fairly full-bellied yesterday evening, but I would have expected him to move off, keep marking his territory, expanding his territory, which he's busy doing at the moment. So maybe, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see who it is. I mean, I think the three likely options are Tumba, Tingana, and Hukumuri. But from the brief glimpse we got of it initially, it looked quite big. Oh, well, interesting. Michelle, you've already hazarded a guess, and you think it's Tingana, just from the very kind of obscured view that you've got of him so far. So I hope you're right. If you can idea a leopard in a bush like that, you are very talented. Okay, guys, well, sorry that we don't have the best view, but I think we will, by the time you come back to us, be able to get you a slightly better spot. And while we wait for our chance to do that, we shall send you across to Taylor.
Well, I suppose a leopard that you can't really see is good enough, isn't it? Anyways, that's quite exciting. My money's still on Tumba. I was just taking a guess, though. I can't see anything. But we just bumbling around. We went past the dam. There's virtually nothing around. There were one or two birds, but they were quite far in. So we're going to do a big loop all the way down there. We'll see if there are any more elephants coming through. I did speak to Harley from Chitwa, and he said there was a herd of elephants at one point. We're just going to pass another safari car. Hello. Hi, everybody. And then it would be really nice if we could get a couple more elephants. So some of those ellies we did see We're kind of between the dam and a little bit further, I suppose, east, southeast, coming this way. Maybe they'll be enticed. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that they don't find a mud wallow along the way. So that's what we will do. And we will come back here a little bit later, I think. Now, this morning, someone was asking where the McCurdy herdie was, which is a group of zebra that used to live quite close to where we stay. We call it the DRC, the Djuma Research Center. Don't worry, it's not the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And, well, I don't know where they've disappeared. And Kathy, you were asking where have all the zebra gone. I haven't actually got a clue. You know, the last time, because I haven't been in South Africa for quite some time, so I haven't even done my regular Kruger trips like I normally go and do. This time last year, I went up and I spent a couple of days in Kruger, and we had the same thing. We weren't seeing any zebra. And when I went up to Satara, which is north of where we are in the Sabi Sands, you go into the Kruger National Park, there were so many zebras around there, but it was also so green and lush. And this time of the year last year, I don't think it was as green. I don't think we'd really had much rain at all. So they were feeding up there. So those animals are just constantly moving around. They're doing mini migrations, looking for better water, greener grass. So perhaps they're just in another area, but I don't know which area that is. Maybe further south towards the Sand and the Sabi River. Again, they could be further north. Maybe they're up in Timbavati, perhaps Thorny Bush. Who knows? But they'll return eventually. They'll come back. The grass is nice and green now, so they'll graze that stuff flat, and then they'll have to move on. And hopefully they just choose to come back to Djuma. I do miss seeing the zebra. It was, we were very lucky, I think, to see so many zebra around at one point, having them spend most of their days quite close to camp as well, and walking with them frequently. They became quite habituated, which made for lots of fun on bushwalks. But who knows? Right, Scott has repositioned, and it sounds like he's got a much better view of that leopard.
So, we have got into a good spot, and sadly, it is not Tingana, but it was a good guess. It's another big male leopard called Hukumuri. And the distinguishing feature for me at this stage and at this view is the small scar just in front of his left eye. Thank you, Dave, for the punch zoom technique that you employed there. And there you can see that little kind of scar just in front of his eye. He also appears to be wearing mascara. He's got quite black rings around his eye, and he just gives me a kind of a cold chill when he stares at me. Especially when you've just arrived in the sighting, he kind of like really gives you a proper once-over. And it's not always the case that when a leopard looks at you, they make you a little bit nervous, but with him, he's got kind of a little bit of a crazy look in his eyes. You can't tell that now because they're closed, but hopefully at some point in time during the afternoon, he will give us a glare and also take us on a mission. Now, the fact that he is still here makes me wonder, has he got another kill nearby? Was he just relaxing after his bushbuck kill that he finished late yesterday evening and then stumbled upon another kill, and now he's just come down to the closest water for a drink, relaxing here before maybe heading back to the kill later? I think there's a high likelihood that is going to be the case. Because as I was saying earlier, for a male leopard, especially a male leopard in his situation, up and coming, expanding territory, he's a hustler. So hustlers don't spend the same time in one place unless there's a good reason to. So maybe he heard some leopard vocalizations from Tingana. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But I'm confident it's got something to do with food that's kept him here. Marvelous. Well, we won't be going anywhere. We're going to put our patient pants on, as it seems like it may be a long afternoon before he decides to get up, but you never know. That's why we just have to stay here. But thankfully, Taylor has got a wonderful view of something else.
Scott, patient pants on a hot day like today. I hope they're shorts. But we've got an animal that's got long legs and doesn't wear pants, and some oxpeckers. And it is a giraffe. This is the first southern giraffe that I've seen since I've been back. How cool is that? I think so. And it's a young bull. He doesn't seem to be quite old at all. He looks fairly young and fit. And in terms of height, I don't quite think he's reached his tallest just yet. But he'll get there eventually. That neck's got to stretch out a little bit. But nice Aussie cones with an oxpecker, doing the best that it can to get rid of all the little parasites. Especially in a spot like that, it'll be quite difficult for the giraffe to get rid of those parasites. Looks like it's getting a little bit annoyed though. I wouldn't be annoyed. At least they're not diving down your ears or dangling from your nose this time, Mr. Giraffe. And I think I'd like to be an oxpecker for a day. I think it must be amazing to be able to cling onto the side of animals the way that they do. And I could also try and get down into their ears, see how far I could go. But that's probably the only place that I'd be dangling from. I think some of the oxpeckers are quite brave to the spots. I feel like I'm just am I digging a hole, Kirst? Do you want to hand me another spade? Yeah, rambling. Right, we'll stop right there. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to just sit quietly, I promise you. What are you feeding on? A buffalo thorn? Again, amazing how a giraffe is able to feed on a tree like that without cutting its lips. And I always like to describe it like somebody that works... Oh, get off my head, please. And kind of like the giraffe is the bat and the oxpecker was a ball for a minute. But what I was going to say is that I always like to describe animals that enjoy feeding on thorny branches to somebody that likes to work in the garden and is constantly pruning roses without gloves on. So over time your hand eventually becomes slightly more calloused, and then you don't really feel the prickles as much, and you're able to prune those roses effectively. So that's essentially what's happening around the tongue, around the lips. You always find young giraffe very delicately picking off leaves, making sure that they're careful not to prick themselves. And then when you're more experienced and you've got tough skin, and it doesn't really matter too much, and you can strip those leaves straight off with absolutely no problem. I mean, I would not be able to grab hold of that branch like that giraffe is doing with its tongue and then pulling away. I would be left with seriously cut up hands. Oh, Katrina, you've said that this is an absolutely adorable giraffe. I also think so. I do think that the little giraffe are more adorable than a young bull. But he's quite handsome, as far as good looks go with giraffe, I suppose. And he's also got a little bit of white on him. You can see between his legs. And then also up on top of their heads. Kirsten starts giggling. And David, you're wondering how well can they hear? This is the first time I've been asked this question too. How well can they hear with their ears so high up on their heads? That's a very good question. I reckon if a mouse was whispering, they probably wouldn't be able to hear it. But if an oxpecker was chirping down on the floor, I think they'd still be able to pick up that. They've got relatively good hearing. The best sense of a giraffe, however, is their eyesight. And they use that to communicate with one another. Well, they use that to spot one another. And then from large distances. And then they will communicate mainly through body language, funny enough. But those oxpeckers are down on the ground again. Let's see if we can see them just below the giraffe's feet, having a dust bath. But it was quite nice because there were patches of golden light. You need William the wildebeest to come through. Oh, what did you get? A snack? Look, there's a juvenile there too. Greedy guts, gobbling up whenever mom or dad is, well, throwing at it. I don't know what it picked up from the ground. It didn't look like a tick. Don't tell me you're trying to make your little one a vegetarian. That's not nice. The little one's not sure about what's actually going on over there, so it's just going to investigate. So the reason why I know that oxpecker is a juvenile is because it's lacking the orbital ring that it had around its eyes, and also its beak was black in color. So that's quite an easy way to tell the difference between adults and youngsters. They don't get the mottled plumage like a lot of the other bird species do when they are juveniles. Oh, they're very busy, working quite hard today. Look at that. Whenever I see them do that, it makes me think of a typewriter. holding on to the legs now as they move around. Well, seeing as though we've got one of the larger mammals here, and we've seen the largest land mammal, the elephant, already, Eileen, you were wondering if the two ever come into conflict with one another. I can't say that I've ever seen a giraffe versus elephant fight before, but I would imagine if you got maybe a young elephant bull that's recently been pushed out of, say, a breeding herd and is a little bit on the boisterous side and maybe needs to boost his ego slightly, he might go charging in to a herd of giraffe and chase them around. I think the giraffe would move out of an elephant's way. Most animals will move out of an elephant's way just by their sheer size. And, well, if you hear that trumpet, that would send shivers down your spine. So a giraffe wouldn't really want to mess with an elephant. It would be an interesting fight, though. I love the way that the oxpeckers have lined themselves up on the giraffe's mane. It's beautiful. I like that. Now, young Aiden, who's only 6 years old and is watching this afternoon. Hello, Aiden. I'm so happy to have you asking me a question. You're wondering, what does this... I think you're asking about the giraffe. What does the giraffe like to eat? Well, they like to eat leaves. That's their absolutely favorite thing to eat. Now, they do have a favorite type of tree that they feed on. It's called an acacia. But that's not what it's eating at the moment. This tree that it's eating is a buffalo thorn. And Aiden, you can eat those leaves. I ate one the other day on a bushwalk. I don't like them very much. But the giraffe enjoy them. They taste a little bit bitter to me. I think I'd rather eat a piece of cucumber, to be honest, or something else. Maybe a bit of chocolate would be even tastier. But but they're basically just browsers. But Aiden, I have to tell you a very funny story. So I hope you're listening now this afternoon. Once I had guests say to me, "Do giraffe eat meat?" or something along those lines, and I laughed at them and said, "Don't be silly, they just eat leaves." And we were actually watching them eat, which I was interested in. And then we came around the corner, and you won't believe what we saw. We saw another group of giraffe, except one giraffe was holding a monkey in its mouth. Can you imagine the hard time that I had trying to tell my guests that no, I promise, giraffe only eat leaves, they only eat leaves, they don't eat any meat. But what that giraffe was doing, and it's really interesting, Aiden, and hopefully if you carry on watching, we'll be able to see it, because lots of animals do it. It was trying to eat the bone of the monkey that had already died. So I don't know what happened to that monkey. And there was a bone, part of its arm was exposed, and it was chewing on the bone to try and get the calcium out. So you know how your mom always says you must drink lots of milk because it makes your bones nice and strong, because it's got calcium in it. So that's what that giraffe was trying to do. But I had guests and they thought that I didn't know what I was talking about, and that giraffe obviously do eat meat. So there we go. So sometimes the animals like to make me look silly, Aiden. Actually, most of the time they like to make me look silly, but that's fine. I don't mind being laughed at. Cool. Shall we check that dam again in case maybe an elephant has snuck on by? I think we should. Thank you, Giraffe, for being so funny. No, it wasn't being funny. So being so fantastic is what I was trying to say. Right, so we're going to maybe go poke our nose back down towards Chitwa Dam to see if any elephants have made their way there. It seems as though Steve has stopped and he's reflecting on his Sunday.
Indeed, I'm reflecting. Taylor, we tried very hard, folks. We have been in the area where Thandi and her cub were seen this morning. We've gone in, we've done a bit of a circle, but it is very, very thick in there. The grass is about waist height. There are bushes everywhere. It just got to the point where we were just running in circles. So we decided to come out, continue, see if we can contribute to this game drive, and we will probably be on our way back this afternoon, see if maybe she pops out as it cools down a bit. So on the way up, we decided to stop at this beautiful little mud wallow. And I was talking before about the eutrophication, or the growth of plants in the water because of the nutrients washed in. And you can see the green. Apparently I'm reflected in the green, and that is because of the organic material that is forming in there, and the plant material is starting to grow, and it's going to start taking the oxygen out of there, and eventually whatever might be living in here will die, which is quite sad. But another reason for stopping is these very nice warthog tracks over here. And as you can see, he decided to have a bit of a lie down, and here are these very nice marks of where his very bristly body was lying against the mud. So he was probably lying in here at some point, and his whole body lay here. And then when he decided to stand up, he stood up, and he has his 2 feet push him out of the mud. Isn't that marvelous? A little bit hard now, but very murky. Very murky and quite gross looking, I would say. And the sun comes out. So with the sun and the nutrients, so it forms the green. And eventually this pond will get that very nice sort of green tinge on top of it, and then it'll disappear altogether. So, moving on. We're thinking we are on the western boundary, so we're going to make our way up towards Buffelshoek Dam, see whatever is going on up there. Who knows, maybe some thirsty lions have decided to come in from the north. That would be marvelous. I know no one checked Buffelshoek this morning, so we are going to continue on. And who knows what we might find. I believe Scott has found himself a lovely leopard. How nice is that? You are blessed. At least you get one leopard so far this Sunday afternoon. But the game drive is still 2 hours to go, so plenty of time to see what we can find. And while we continue on, don't forget to send your questions through at #SafariLive. We're going to go back to Scott and see what leopard he has.
So we've still got the old Hukumuri male here. He is looking very, very sleepy. And, I mean, it's difficult to tell because he's lying down. But his belly is looking quite full. Possibly fuller than it was yesterday evening. So, maybe my theory of him having a kill somewhere nearby is in fact correct, but can't be sure just yet. Oh, shame, he just had a little bit of a choke there, it looked like. I don't know if you guys saw that. I just heard actually maybe a little furball's making its way out. Like Steve says though, we're very lucky to at least have a leopard for now, and hopefully he will get lucky with Tundi a little bit later on. It's an incredible tricky spot that we left her and the cub in this morning. But at least we've got a kind of base for Steve to work off. Tommy, you'd like to know if we only give the predators names, or if we sometimes give the prey animals names. Well, yeah, as a general rule, it's mainly the predators. But there's a few individuals, that stand out from the rest, like Daryl the elephant. I'm still not sure. I forgot to ask Taylor how he ended up with the name Daryl. It's got something to do with where she was working before she came here. So that was a name that lodge adopted for him, and now we've just kept running with that. We had a big kudu that we used to call Zeus back in the day, who had incredibly large horns, with a very wide spread, and abnormally kind of wide spread. But other than that, I can't really think of any other animals we've named. Occasionally, we had once named a wildebeest. I can't remember what we named her. She had a loose horn and a young baby. Sadly, both her and the young baby were killed in the same season by lions, if my memory serves me correctly. But yeah, Tom, as a... yes, thanks, Kirsty. It was called Brian and Brian's mom. Brian was the baby, named after one of the cameramen, and obviously Brian's mom was the mother. I can't remember, I think obviously maybe the baby got eaten first and then the mother, but they both got consumed within, I think, quite a short period. And Tom, the reason why we don't name too many of the prey species is because we don't follow them closely enough to warrant it, and it's there's often so many more of the prey species than the predators. Oh, shame, it looked like a fly gave him a good bite on the nose there. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the main reason why we don't name the prey species. There's just too many of them, and we don't really follow their lives as closely as the predators. trying to think of any other lucky prey species that we named. Oh, interesting. Well, Taylor's just confirmed that Daryl was actually named after a guest that came to the lodge where she was working. Oh, the guest named it. I wonder why the guest named it Daryl. Oh, hello, boy. Rolling over, getting comfy. Yeah, interesting. Interesting name for an elephant, Daryl. Wouldn't it be nice if you knew a little bit more as to why Daryl was the name and why the one guest was lucky enough to name the elephants? Interesting stuff. Kirsty's just reminded me of Nelson, the one-eyed impala. I don't think I ever met Nelson, unless my filing cabinet is a little bit dusty with regards to remembering that. So yeah, I mean, unless there's a kind of unique scenario, the prey species generally won't get named. Now, we had a plan B for this evening, and, you know, maybe if Steve doesn't get lucky with Tundi a little bit later on, he might be able to do it, otherwise we'll be able to do it another evening. But we're planning on doing a stakeout with Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson is a Janet. She's named after Janet Jackson, just because it rhymes. And she lives in a tree, in a cavity in a tree. And interestingly, she was actually last seen on the 28th of February. Somebody asked this morning when last she was seen, and I wasn't too sure, but somebody, and I forgot their name, but somebody kindly tweeted a picture to me of Janet poking her head out of her little cavity. And it'll be quite nice, now that we're staying out a little bit later into darkness, which is a relatively recent development. It'll allow us to do a stakeout with her and watch her emerge from her hole, and then hopefully we could, you know, be able to follow her. And because we know where she lives, we're in a fortunate situation where we could almost, well, not almost, we could 100% start habituating her to a vehicle. And wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to follow a relaxed Janet around doing its business? But Hukumuri is going to be the priority for us for now. Very good. Well, it sounds like Steve has hopped out the vehicle, something he loves doing, and he is standing next to one of his favorite things, a tree.
Trees indeed, Scotty D. We are on a very small termite mound in comparison to others that we've seen. But what is always so characteristic, and what I absolutely love about this part, is we've got three really nice examples of our false marula. And once again, and there's another example on the left there, but once again, what is it? They are growing on the termite mounds. Now, this is something that I was asked by a guest last year or the year before. Why do they grow? And I can only assume it's got to do with the fact that potentially, because actually the false marulas are part of the mango family, and they've got a very nice fruit. I've yet in my life to actually come across and find a fruit. I've seen in the books, but I've still yet to find one. I'm looking in this tree, hoping, because we all know mangoes are quite tasty and delicious. And so what I can only assume, and you can all comment and tell me what you think, but first of all, a baboon or something that comes along feeds on the mangoes. The baboon will come and sit down, as you would on a termite mound, having a look over the area. Defecate a couple of times, a couple of the seeds maybe fall down. There's little holes in the termite mound, they fall in, and they germinate. And so essentially, the height of the termite mound, the baboon sitting, the transport. That's one option. The fact also that the termite mounds have access to the water table. False marulas do not occur at the top of the landscape. We are quite high up on the landscape, which means that it's the termite mound that is facilitating the access to water. This is the area you'd find your larger marulas. Down by the river is where you normally find the false marula. So access to the water, the roots going through the termite channels, because we know in a big mound like this is definitely the macrotermes, the fungus growing termite. So the access to the water has allowed these false marula to grow. And also what I've seen on other termite mounds, they're a little bit more elevated. It's possible that the small sapling that grows on the termite mound is a little bit more, bit more of an escape from herbivores. And so what we've seen here is 3 and the 4th one right over there. Impala shouting at me over there. I've got the leaf over here, but what I'd like to do is to do something I'm not sure has been done before on camera. I'm going to get Ferg to assist me in this. It's a tribal and traditional torture technique taught to me by some local Shangans, and I'm going to get Ferg to focus. Where's the best spot for you to stand, Ferg? Over here. Okay, right over here. I've got 2 sticks of a plant called a sandpaper raisin, and once Ferg is focused, he's going to come and join me for a quick second, because I'm going to torture him, folks, but I'm not going to hurt him, I promise. I'm just going to show you a ritualized technique that Fergie, if you could do this with your hands for me, please. Okay, now put this inside there. Open your finger. Open there. Okay, now we hope you folks can see this at home. Essentially, the traditional thing is it's more of a discipline or a punishment. If I just grab Ferg's fingers like this, did you hear him scream there? And now I can pull him and take him in any direction that I like. So it's a bit of a punishment. I could really hurt him if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, thanks Fergs for being the guinea pig today. That was a wonderful demonstration of your ability to endure pain. I've seen it done. The origins are quite skeptical. Some people have told me that it's the wife will do it to the husband to drag him around to punish him. Some say it's naughty children. If they misbehave at school, the teachers will do that to them. And it's a very good way to make them listen. I know there's lots of corporal punishment out in the world, and this is probably a very outdated one. But the sandpaper raisin, if you have a look at the stick, very easy to identify. Poor Ferg, poor Ferg. The stick is very square bark, and it's very easy to identify. It's one of the Grevia species, the raisin species, and long sticks out of this are actually quite useful for making a bow, for bow and arrow, also for making a bow for holding onto the stick when doing a fire drill. So instead of using a fire drill this way, you can use a bow that can make that drill work quite nicely. So thanks, Fergs, for that. I wonder if that has been done on air before, but you're a good show. Good show. Okay, so we are continuing on. I couldn't help but stop for that beautiful example of the false marulas. And actually, right next to me here, Ferg, we've also got this leadwood. And whatever I spoke to folks before about, leadwoods are a very good indicator of water. And we are right up on the top of the slope. And yet there is a leadwood, which is an indicator of water, right next to the termite mound. So it's definitely something happening here, as well as an apple leaf behind us there. So there is access to the water here, which is a very good indication. If you had to put a pump in, you could probably put one here, and you'd probably have good access to water with your nice house looking over. Let's have a look at that view, Ferg. Isn't that a marvelous view? Put a little homestead here, a nice little cottage under the shade of the false marulas. Get some water, some nice wind, beautiful animal sounds, and for the naughty boys and girls, there are sandpaper raisin branches nearby for punishment. Morning Glory is wondering why I have not climbed a tree yet. I did climb a tree on one of my walks. I climbed a bushveld gardenia. That was last month or the month before already, and I've actually got a little bit of a sore ankle. I don't mean to moan or to whine as Ferg clicks his tongue at me, but I was going to climb those trees, but I didn't want to unduly hurt myself if I jumped out of the tree. I've seen James nearly fall before on one of the videos, and ideally I've only just got back to work. I need to at least work for a week before doing something outrageous. But I will be climbing a tree shortly. I was very keen to climb those ones, but in lieu of my slightly sore ankle, and I don't mean to complain, I was going to forget about it today. Okay, so with this wonderful view here on the horizon, looking towards the Drakensberg, we're going to go to Scott, who I believe is still with the flat cat, Hukumuri.
We are indeed. He's just put his head up because some blacksmith lapwings started calling chip, 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 chip. And what's interesting is that some Birchall starlings swooped down and for no apparent reason kind of like attacked the lapwings, and then the lapwings fought back. And now they've all disappeared. And at least it's kind of semi-awoken old Hukumuri. And I've got a feeling we're going to be here for a while before he gets up and on the move. Far less predictable than lions, though, the leopard. So that's why we feel that it is worth our while to stay put here, in case he does get up and decide to move. Hello, young Aiden. Just 6 years old. Very good to have you on a safari with us. You would like to know if leopards like catnip. And I am told that yes, they do. But we try not to interfere with the animals, as much as we may sometimes want to help them or give them something. We don't, because that way we stay in a situation where they don't really see us as good or bad. We're just somewhere in between, which is unique in nature, and that's why he's allowing us to just sit here peacefully right next to him. But I'm told, yes, that a number of the big cats all like catnip, and it's not something I've ever tried. I've only actually ever seen videos of domestic cats responding and getting very excited with it, but I've never actually seen it in person. It's something that maybe I should try with a domestic cat next time I'm around one. But yeah, I've never actually seen it myself. Aiden, I'm guessing you have seen it before. That's why you know about it. Do you like to give your cat catnip? If you do, let us know. That would be very interesting. Maybe you can even do your own little Safari Live segments telling us about your cat and the catnip. You can do a video for us. Start practicing for when you come and start working at Safari Live. So that's a little plan. We can get Dave, who's on camera, to give your camerawoman or cameraman some feedback, and all the presenters can tell you what we think about your performance. Okay, very good. Well, we are going to stay put and send you off to somebody else. I'm not sure whether it's Taylor or Steve.
Again, only 50-50. Right. I'd also like to see that video, Aiden, of the cats playing with catnip. So, I haven't found anything, unfortunately. Lots of footprints of elephants, but no elephants, and that's essentially what I've been looking for. But, seeing as though we're just doing a bit of bumble, we might as well have a chit-chat. What? A DNC, a drive-and chat, as I dubbed them in the Mara. A lot of you have been asking me about my hair and why it's so short. I also want to know why it's so short, but I have the answer to that. It's because when you go to Kenya for 6 months and you don't have a haircut... Kirsten's just said no one's been asking that. Actually, there's been lots of you have been asking me that. Just ignore her. She's mean. And... basically, when you go to Kenya for 6 months and you don't have a haircut and you're out in the bush all the time with the sun and the wind, you can imagine how damaged your hair gets. So my hairdresser said to me, and you know how sassy they can be sometimes, she went, "Oh, have you been enjoying the length of your hair?" So I said, "Oh, yes," and then I raved about how much I've been loving it and it's so fantastic. She said, "Good, I hope you've enjoyed it because I'm going to cut it all off." And I jaw on the floor. She says, "There's no saving that. So my ponytail is gone, but don't worry, it'll grow quickly and then I'll be back." Anyways, what I thought we would do, though, is we'd play a little game because the animals are hiding away from me. And you have to look at my ponytail now, but you have to look at the things that are in my ponytail. What leaves are these? What tree do they come from? Hashtag Safari Live, or let us know on the YouTube chat. That's all you get. That's all the clue you get. Now you've got to guess. And I shall be placing a variety of trees in my hair throughout the day, and we will play a tree identifying game. Some of them I may know the answer to, others I may not, and might be relying on you to answer them for me. So, see how it goes. I won't tell you which way it is, though. You'll just have to guess. Okay, let's go down here. Oh, warthog. Hang on. That's exciting. Sorry, Senzo, I didn't mean to make you come off the car for a warthog. Right? Hello, pigs. And very relaxed. These must be the lodge pigs. Chitwa pigs. Because typically when they see you, they run away. They're not quite as relaxed as the pigs in the Mara. Hello, big girl. Off she goes. There's another one. Just to the right, going in her steps. Listening. You see one ear pointed towards us. Making sure she can carry on listening to us. And then there's a little one as well. There's the little one, just disappearing. We missed it. But there was a little one. You'll just have to take my word for it. But now they're gone as well. Thank you very much, warthogs. At least it was an animal, though. Let's see. I think we might have to jump onto... I think we're going to have to go back onto Gowrie, Maine. Gowrie, Maine, and have a look for those elephants that we had been seeing. Maybe we find a herd on its way. David, you've guessed a silver cluster leaf is what is sticking out of my ponytail. Sadly not. You're going to have to try again, I'm afraid. I actually do know the answer to this one. Let's see. Ooh, James, you've guessed an apple leaf. I've seen a lilac-breasted roller, but unfortunately apple leaf is incorrect too. No, sit down. Oh, are you going to sit on a perch? We'll have a quick look. I think it flew down. It may have got something. I don't know if there is something between its beak. No, nothing. Sadly, no. Nothing for the lilac-breasted roller. Hi, Cheryl. You've guessed a marula leaf. No, not a marula leaf either. We're ticking off the common ones fairly quickly. This is also a very common one. I'll give you a clue. It's normally what the buffalo and zebra like to eat when winter is around and there isn't much grass available. That should help you out quite a bit. Beautiful bird, though, with its long streamers. Just blowing in the wind. And now scanning around looking for the next insect. Oh! Ding, 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 and the crowd goes wild. Well done, GDH, you guessed correctly. This is indeed a round leaf teak. See, I tried to trick you all a little bit, but look how big those leaves are, nice and round. There aren't too many that are of this shape. So quite easy to tell. Also, got a bit of sheen on them, a little bit waxy. They're quite soft to the touch as well. I think I would rather use this as white gold rather than the African wattle, which is also growing a lot out here. Right, that one's done. I can't take another one, though, because otherwise you'll see which tree I'm pulling it off from. So we'll just have to wait and see what the next leaf is going to be. How exciting. So we all seem to be playing with the vegetation today, including Steve, but he's looking at some pretty ones.
Oh, indeed, always looking at the pretty flowers. What do they say? You need to have time to stop and smell the roses. In this case, I am looking at a Tephrosia, which is one of the bush peas that are locally found. There's quite a number of species. This one's got ashy sort of green leaves, beautiful pinkish flower, and it is in fact a legume. And all the legumes are nitrogen fixers. You can always sort of tell legumes by the bean type pod. Ferg, can you get that? There's a bean type pod there. All bean type pod plants, including all the acacias, are legumes. And what legumes really are means that they have a symbiotic relationship with the rhizobacteria. They're basically nodules that will form around. So if my finger was a root, the root is the extent of the plant, and the rhizobacteria will actually form on the small bristles and roots of the plant itself, increasing the absorption of nutrients in the soil, and also the ability to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere into the ground. So they then take nitrogen from the atmospheric nitrogen, which is about 70% in the atmosphere, and they're able to fix it into nitrates and all sorts of good stuff that the plants are then able to utilize. So legumes are very, very important in food crops, very, very important out here in this environment. There are huge numbers of legume species, all the acacia species, lots of bean pods. Clover is one of them as well. So not to be misunderstood, but absolutely beautiful. Such a delicate little flower, and it's my first time actually seeing one out here, so quite a special sighting for me for today. So thank you very much, legume. You carry on and do your thing in the sunshine. And I believe actually the roots can be used or the leaves can be used to make an insecticide, a topical insecticide that can be then used on your plants as well. So a very marvelous sort of adaptation, using what nature provides to sort of protect ourselves against everything that we want. So we're continuing on. Enough sitting around, time to find some animals. Ferg, don't you think?
Yeah.
Let's find some animals. Ferg agrees with me. But it is a beautiful afternoon on our eastern side. We are not too far away from Buffelshoek Dam, which is in the northeastern section of Botanical and Djuma. And on our way, we are going to continue smelling and feeling the breeze. And while we do so, we're going to go back over to Scott Dyson, who I think is still with that savage-looking Hukumuri.
Yes, we are still with the savage Hukumuri male, but he's not doing much, so we thought we'd show you this pair of Egyptian geese who are floating about in a little puddle that used to be a massive waterhole. My first year here, this dam was filled with about 8 or so hippos. It was all happening, but right now, as you can see, it gives you a good indication of how little rain we've been getting over the last few years. It'll be wonderful when it fills up again. Let's take a quick look at Hukumuri here. Astounded by how in tune he is with other animals' alarm calls. He's definitely on high alert. Earlier there was a squirrel alarm calling. He put his head up, looked in that direction. Now it's some blacksmith lapwings that he heard. And even a big male leopard like this needs to be cautious out here. And I guess we've got good example as to why. Well, this is a good example as to why. Or, you know, that it's not just the predators it's not just the prey that need to keep an eye out for themselves, but also the predators. It's also made me wonder further, and it's something we discussed yesterday, whether the animals can tell what other animals are alarm calling at. I don't know any humans that can successfully say that, oh, I can hear monkeys, they've seen a leopard, or they've seen a snake, or they've seen a bird of prey. It all sounds the same to us. Same goes for squirrels, XYZ. But maybe animals like this, whose senses are far better than ours, can actually read into the different alarm calls. However, the fact that he's just looking up at any alarm call in the last 5 minutes, he's looked at tree squirrels, he's looked at blacksmith lapwings, it would indicate that, you know, he's not entirely sure. If he was sure, he would either go there and have a look or run away. He wouldn't just like put his head up and chance, you know, working out what it is. I can't wait for him to get up, not only because it'll be wonderful to see him on the move, but because I'm really desperate to know how or why he stayed in this area. I'm confident, like I said earlier, that he would have made another kill last night nearby, and that's why he hasn't moved off. But only time will tell. Hello, Puma. You would like to know if there's a healthy ratio of predator to prey here on Djuma. Yes. I mean, it's a very, very difficult equation to work out. But it's a very natural ecosystem that we're in here. We are open to the greater Kruger National Park. So basically, we traverse a tiny, tiny pinprick 1,500 hectares of a total of over 3 million. And when you've got an ecosystem that large, Mother Nature tends to be able to look after herself. And there might be periods when, there's a slight discrepancy and maybe there's a few more predators than prey, and then there'll be, a situation where a pride of lions die out for whatever reason, or a pack of wild dogs die out, or a whole bunch of leopard die, for whatever the reasons being, and then the tables will turn. But I think because we are in such a wonderfully natural ecosystem here, it's always going to be in a fairly decent balance. But you do get quite a few smaller reserves, especially here in South Africa, where we've got a lot of fenced reserves, where, the humans have to kind of act like Mother Nature and, bring new blood in for the predators, take old males out, keep the populations in check, depending on how much prey's there. So, yeah, I don't think we have that same problem here. Okay, I just need to give somebody a quick call on the radio who'd like to come and join us here. So I'm going to send you across to Taylor, who's got some more leaves in her hair.
We do, well, not we do, because they're only in my hair. Senzo didn't put any in his. What do we have now? But there's going to be a twist this time. I would like the Latin name, please, and one fun fact. How does that sound? And then in return, I'll give you a fun fact about this one. So we stopped here, and the reason why is because of this termite mound. And what caught my attention is now the guineafowl that are alarming behind me, which we will go and have a look at. But there's some dung just to the right of that big stump, and a lot of it looks like dwarf mongoose feces. So it doesn't look too old. I'm pretty sure that there must be a colony of mongoose living around here, but they're not out at the moment. Perhaps they're still scavenging. It's a little bit early to be heading home. This will got quite a bit of light, but maybe we'll come back here a little bit later. Let's go quickly see what those guineafowl are shouting at, because they are shouting quite a bit. If I can start the car. Right. I don't know what startled them. Off we go. Meow, lots of birds making noises now. Let's hope that it is something quite cool. Maybe a leopard, maybe a lion, even a bird of prey would be pretty spectacular. Right, let's go back across to Steve.
Thank you, Taylor. Not flowers in your hair, leaves in your hair. Hopefully you managed to find something from those guineafowl. We have found something. A marvelous Nyala bull, who was looking pretty well in front of us, and now he's decided to give us the classic African salute by showing us his bottom. But one of those species that likes to stand still and not move when detected. I don't think he's too bothered by our presence, because the animal is still moving and eating and carrying on as normal. But look at the rate at which it is feeding. Like with the giraffe this morning, these ruminant animals, another 4-chambered stomach animal, they just nibble, 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 all sorts of leaves, in it goes, chew it once or twice, fill up that belly, and then go and sit down and ruminate. There we go, feeding on a bit of grass. Nyalas are very good mixed feeders, taking advantage of the best possible nutrients that are around, unlike their kudu counterpart that is only a browser. He is not too impressed with us, and he's moving slowly away. Look at that, he is actually quite camouflaged. If he stood dead still with black and white vision, you would not be able to see him. But he's making the most of this greenery, and we promised you an animal, so there we go. That's the first one that we've seen. I think the first one we've seen. No, we missed the Steinbok. We got the Steinbok, yes. But all good. That is what happens this time of year. The animals are very spread out in the environment because of the amount of rain. We've had lots of greenery, lots of moisture, and they are making hay while the sun shines, as I've said before. See how busy his mouth is there. Very selective feeders are the Nyala. I didn't quite get that name, but Alalamua. Laramua. Sorry, I didn't quite copy that, but I love the white markings as well, the spots on the cheek and the white line between the eyes, similarities in the kudu, and that helps to break up the outline of their face. Some of the trees out here have got little white spots on them, just little changes, little lichen bits, and see how you just move behind one bush, and if you didn't move, it would be completely invisible. So the nyalas are not the fastest of animals I've ever seen. You watch them run, they're very, very awkward looking animals when they sort of jolt off, but their objective is to run a little bit into thick vegetation and then just stand very, very still. And yes, indeed, that was a male nyala. Okay, so Taylor has found her guinea fowl. I'm not sure what other surprises she has, but let's go over to her.
Sadly, we've basically lost all of them now. They were all standing out in the open. There's a couple of heads you can see just every now and then. I think they were just trying to tease me. They pranked me. Hashtag I got tricked. That's exactly what happened. I don't know what they were alarming at, but now they're all very relaxed and eating grass seeds. So they seem to be quite happy. Yes, Guineafowl, come back out, please. Come back out. Look at all of them. I will never, ever forget that day in the Mara where those Guineafowl were convinced that the water that splashed out as I went through a puddle was a snake. That was so funny. I really wish we were actually live for it. It was too hilarious. But there they are, busy pecking away, just like chickens. They really do remind me of chickens, just their entire behavior, the way that they overreact at certain things, and the way they peck, constantly use their feet and scrape dung open. All of a sudden, when one runs, they all run in the same direction and hope that there's more of whatever the other has found. And of course, they've got those beautiful blue heads, which doesn't look like a chicken at all. They're beautiful birds. There's quite a few of them in there too. Sometimes when they alarm like that, I was actually hoping that they would be gathered near a bush and it was going to be a snake that they'd be looking at, or even something like a serval. But who knows? Right, I'm still waiting for some answers about what tree I have or what branch I have in my hair, and I'm looking for the Latin name and a fun fact about this particular tree. Ooh, Matt, you've guessed a leadwood branch. That's not right, I'm afraid. And also, you would have had to have said Combretum burbi, but because that's the Latin name for a leadwood. But unfortunately, that's not the answer. Good guess, good guess, good guess. We learn every single day. We'll wait for some more. Oh, I think I might be losing it. The wind's taken it. We're just about getting to that time as well we can go back and visit Chitwa Dam. I did hear some hippos grunting and snorting, so perhaps they've edged closer down to this right-hand corner. Project Alpha, you get half a point, I'm afraid, because you said guari, which is right, but it's not the Latin name, I'm afraid. But you did give fun facts. You said that they're good as fly swatters, best fact ever, and then you also said... okay, no, you get all the points now. I believe you just quickly typed away. But the other fun fact was that you said that you can divine water with them if you believe in that stuff. I love it. My favorite part was the end of that sentence. And then, like I said, because you got your points, you said it is Euclea divinorum. You're quite right. So all the guari trees, the genus is gone. That's fine. It can go. It's gone now. But you got it right. So well done, Project Alpha. Very impressive. Go team, go. I was driving around for ages trying to find what tree I'm going to put in next, because all I could see, you won't believe it, was an apple leaf, a silver cluster leaf, and a marula tree. Those were the only trees that I was seeing. And then I thought, no, that's going to be too easy, because those were everyone's initial guesses. Let's see what we've got over here. Whoop, a little bit bumpy. Please, can a leopard come out? Oh, hello, little not lapping little three-banded plovers. I assume it's going to be Mr. and Mrs. three-banded plover down here in the golden glow. They are such striking little birds. So we were looking at the black crakes today, and I was saying how nimble they are. And then the other bird that I mentioned was the three-banded plovers, to how quick they are. They are really, even though they can fly, it is super impressive as to how they can race around. But I suppose when you are collecting little insects off the surface of the water, which is typically where they also feed on insects that are on the ground nearby, you need to be quick. Because I don't know about you, but I've tried to catch many insects in my life, and most of the time I end up failing. But also on such tiny little stilts, which we call legs. Just, I suppose, maybe there's a little parasite or something crawling on it, fluffing itself up, wagging its tail, and then off it goes again. Very busy. Can you go and pick some insects off the surface of the water so you can just show everybody that that's what you eat? Ooh, they are so quick. I wonder how fast these birds could run. I haven't got a clue. I don't think that many of the birds mention how fast birds can actually run, other than perhaps ostriches. But look at those little legs. They go so quickly. I wonder if they get tired. I'm sure they must. They must sit down every now and then and go, whew, that was exhausting. See, something's bothering that bird on its legs. I wonder what it is. That's as close as we can go, hey, Sensor? Looks like there is something there. No, is it just the joint? No, maybe it runs closer. See, we need to get it as those lights. The light sort of catches it. No, it doesn't look like there's any massive parasites. Maybe a bit of loose skin. And it's just trying to get rid of it. There you go. Going down to collect some more insects. Very pretty birds. Oh, that would make a great screenshot if it stands still for long enough. See that white band around the head and then the sort of red orbital rings? That's an easy way to identify them. Although I don't think you can you get them confused? What other little plovers do we get? Shall we have a little look here? Kirsten, are you still there? You've gone very quiet. Just checking that everything's all still right. Plover. 170. Oh my goodness, I promise you, if you heard how nasty Kirsten was to me all the time, you would be so shocked. She told me she's just ignoring me now. Ah, goodness gracious. So, let me just have a very quick little look in my book while you watch that beautiful bird. Let me scroll all the way back. No, I don't think so. I don't think there really is anything else that resembles it. Oh. My friend Tula Ann is back. Hi, Tula Ann. I don't think I've had a chat with you for ages. You said that you weren't sure about the leaves that were in my hair, but you said that they were very pretty. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing anybody has ever said to me. Well, today. No, let's go with that's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. Thank you very much, Tula Ann. I will remember this moment for the rest of my life. That was very sweet of you. Well, if you go outside and grab a bunch of leaves, make sure they're not poisonous, though, and you pop them in their hair, you'd look just as pretty. You go to school like that. You could start a fashion trend. Yeah, I mean, in terms of size, even, I think Kitlet's plover's even a little bit bigger. Piney, you've said that it looks like it has a sweatband on its head. Was it in its octave wear? What other birds look like they're wearing their octave wear? All it needs is little rings around its legs for armbands, and then it'll be sorted. It kind of does look like it's wearing a vest as well, you know, sun's out, guns out, those types of things, with that white bit that comes around. Now I'm being ridiculous. I'm going to get told to keep quiet in a second. But a lovely little bird, and one of my favorites. Thank you for being so beautiful. It's not often that we get such a beautiful shot of a bird like this with a light. But we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay here with all the wonderful animals at Chitwa because the sun is going down and it's the time I've been waiting for. However, Stephen has now beaten me in showing you some hippos.
That's because our hippos, Taylor, are better than your hippos. I'm only joking. These guys are not permanent residents here. We are at Buffelshoek Dam, finally, ladies and gentlemen, and we have got a pod of what looks like 6 individuals. One of them is definitely a big male, and there's a few females in there. And they are a marvelous ecosystem of operators, should I say. I've spoken a little bit this afternoon about nutrients going into water, and here we have one of the biggest contributors to the nutrients within the water system here in the dams and in the rivers of southern Africa. And the hippo feeds on grass similar to that of your larger bulk feeders, and then defecates a large proportion of that into the river here. And what those nutrients provide is food for fish, and that those fish provide food for larger fish, for crocodiles, and also for all of the fish-eating birds that you find in and around the water points. Fish eagles, storks, all sorts of herons, and egrets, multitudes of them. And the hippo is the provider of the resource that comes in. So not only are nutrients washed in by rain, but hippos bring them in, and then all the insects that thrive on them as well. The plover that you might have seen, black-soot lapwings you have running around, are feeding on the little insects that are floating to the surface on the side of the dam, and that's all provided by the bulk of what these hippos bring in, which is quite magnificent. They don't think they play such a major role, but such a big animal like that's impossible for them not to. So I was doing a little walk around on the dam wall, and I managed to come across a marvelous flower that I have subsequently poached. I only did so because the bush was very big and there were many flowers, and I couldn't get there with the vehicle, and it would have been unethical to drive there with the vehicle. So I found for you a beautiful purple foxglove. Now, this is a plant I spoke to you about earlier. The purple foxglove has been classified previously in South Africa, and my friend was in Makuleki in the northern Kruger, and she found a new species. It was much more pink than this one is purple, and that was a species that she showed someone, and it became known only in 2014. So that's quite recent for plant, and I'm sure there are plenty more out there that we've yet to see. But something that I've always done with my guests, I've always found quite amazing, is we need to amplify the senses in these environments. And something that I've always done with this specific leaf, if you crush it and smell it, and obviously I'd ask you to do it if you're here, but it smells like peanut butter. And that's what I have received from many a guest. I smell it myself. Some people don't smell it. They smell chocolate, nuts, or something like that. But peanut butter always sort of comes through in the overlay. How about that? Ferg, you have a quick smell? Tell me what you think, Ferg. Coast-cider, my favorite flower in the bush this time of year, is very hard for me to tell you. Dwarf sage is probably my favorite flower from a smell point of view. It smells like sort of like a Vicks sort of product. You smell it and it opens the sinuses and gives you a really big sort of, almost like an energy boost. So it's not the prettiest of flowers, but the scent that the plant gives off is very, very good. Another plant that smells good is hemizygia, which has got sort of like a Thai green curry sort of flavor. But this is a beautiful flower, the foxglove. And in Europe, the European foxglove is in fact poisonous. I don't think this one is, but I've never tried to eat it. Marvelous. We're enjoying the last rays of the afternoon with our hippos, and we're going to go from our dam all the way back down to Chitwa Dam and see what Taylor has for you.
I found young Snappy the crocodile, the progeny of Boris and Vladimir. Very cool. And you won't believe it was actually sitting in the bank just above where those plovers were, but I was obviously so focused on the plovers that I didn't bother to look up. Anyways, when I started the car, it got a fright. Now, Snappy is quite big. I don't know how old this crocodile is. I'm not sure if it is one of the hatchlings. Maybe it's one from another year, because it looked to be maybe about 60 centimeters in length. And I know when crocodiles are born, or now crocodiles are, they're normally about the ruler's length, about 30 centimeters in length, and they'll grow 30 centimeters every year for the first 7 years of their life, which is quite spectacular if you think about it. And I suppose that depends on food availability as well. So I'm sure there were a number of factors that would affect that. However, little Snappy is on its own, which doesn't surprise me, but you better be careful, because there are some big herons and things that frequent this area. Now, down in the distance, woo! Something I've been wanting to see for quite some time, and Senzel kindly pointed it out to me because I was watching Snappy, is the hippos coming in and out of Chitwa Dam. We haven't really been able to see that too much. Well, I haven't. But there is one, just gloating in the golden light. I think it's actually having a drink of water right now, quenching its thirst. Now, Fiona, you're wondering if the hippo's ears close when they go underwater. I don't know if they have a valve system like they have with their nostrils, because they can close their nostrils when they go underwater and then they open them again. Oh, there's a little hippo. We'll have to go down to that end in a minute. But it's like when we dive down underwater, we don't need anything to close our ears. I suppose, what is it, like an air bubble that just sort of forms that prevents the water from going all the way in. So I'm not actually sure. I don't know why I don't know that. I apologize. So maybe somebody can assist you. Oh, there's lots of little hippo. Oh, they're getting a bit excited now. Little one is teasing mum. Oh no, that maybe looks like another youngster. A lot older calf though. And they'll play quite nicely. So, not many hippos down this end. But unfortunately, we won't be able to go there right now because I know it is a serious gremlin spot. Oh, hang on, Senzel, can we have a look again? Look at that. Now, the Egyptian geese that we saw this morning, I'm sure it's the same ones with the goslings. Another one actually swooped over that woolly neck stalk to the right and tried to dive bomb it. Now, they'll be very protective, those Egyptian geese. And we were talking about how protective they are. And they're actually really good parents. So we'll see what's going to happen. If there's maybe an intruder, another Egyptian goose that shouldn't be coming too close by. Because those adults won't even think about, will not even hesitate, sorry, is what I was trying to say, and chase any intruders away. But they're grazing now. You can see them plucking the grass out. They love grazing. The little ones all sitting down now, hiding in the grass. Good birds. I really want to go to the hippos. Shall we give it a gamble? I think we'll give it a gamble. Let's try our luck. Bye, Snappy. Be safe. Go slowly, huh? Don't want to scare Snappy. Snappy will go underwater, though. Bye. Now we'll have a quick look around here to see if there are any small crocodiles. Lots of animals coming down to the water's edge now. I'm just scanning, so I do apologize if I don't have chats to you. Right, little goslings, you're going to jump on Joy. I'm going to get your question now, I promise. Go! Oh man, I want to see them jump. No, don't jump yet. Ah, that would have been so great to watch them go cliff diving. No, they're hiding away. We're not going to see the Egyptian geese. They've just gone round the bend. Typical. Okay, let me get into a good spot. So, Joy, you've asked, do hippos make audible sounds underwater? Most of the communication is actually done underwater. About 80% of it is what we can't hear. We typically just hear that snort that is caused when they expel water or air from their nostrils. And then, of course, the typical grunting we hear too. And then they also make some dinosaur sounds, which I've played for you a few times, which is interesting. But most of their communication, like I just said, is done underwater. Oh, goodness, I'm losing all my goodies here. Let's have a look. Where are we going to park? So we can get a nice view. I think we're going to go right down here, in fact. Oh, cool. Fantastically, Kurt. This is the first time I think I've ever been able to drive down through here and not have gremlins attack. So that's quite nice. Hi, Hippos. No, man, stop being ridiculous. I'm so far away from you and you're in the water. Sometimes hippos do this. They can be a bit dramatic at times. I mean, are you laughing? Or is it a sneeze? Oh, bless you. Then that's the appropriate term. We must be about, I don't know, about 60 meters, 70 meters away from those hippos, and they're in the water. So this is a threat display. Although the hippo doesn't seem to be doing it at us. It's looking the opposite direction, but spectacular. Could use with a bit of a floss. Here we go, Tula Ann. And the rest of the other young viewers. That's why it's important to brush your teeth every night and floss. Otherwise you get teeth that look like a hippo's teeth, and they're not very attractive. You need some serious braces to set them straight. So make sure you practice dental hygiene. So yeah, so I'm not sure why that hippo reacted like that. Perhaps it's because she did have a youngster and was a little bit on the nervous side. But everybody's settling down now, other than her sort of just charging off. It's all become quite settled at the dam. I reckon they're going to play around quite a bit. Now, we were chatting about hunting earlier. Oh, that hippo didn't want the oxpeckers to land on its head. What hunting were we talking about? I've now forgotten. But Kristen, you were wondering if illegal hunting of hippos is a problem. I suppose just poaching in general, because you would call that poaching. It happens with various species. And the problem there is that hippos are often shot for bushmeat. So you'll find a lot of people eat hippo. So that, yes, that can be a big problem. I haven't heard of it being a problem here in the Sabi Sand, although they've got a very strict anti-poaching team. They're not only protecting the rhinos and the leopards and, the more endangered animals. They're making sure that they look after all of them. So no poaching even of a bushbuck would be tolerated here in the Sabi Sand. And the same goes for the Kruger. Obviously, with the Kruger being so large, it is slightly more difficult to manage. But they do their absolute best. There we go. There's that other sound I was telling you about. Snorting.